Greetings, my name is James Curtis Geist. I've been a history teacher for 20 plus years. I've been writing since 2016. I love my coffee and I love my Dr. Squatch cologne. If you enjoy my stories, please hit like and subscribe. So today I'll be sharing my story about meeting Ed Schultz of MSNBC and Tim Robbins, the actor. So this, it was on the same day. It was in 2011, and it's when the protests were going on in 2011. The Occupy Wall Street movement protests. So Schultz was born in Norfolk in 1954. He played football for Minnesota State University, and he was an All-American quarterback. I didn't know that. He became a free agent for the Oakland Raiders. He worked as a sportscaster in Fargo, North Carolina, and then he took to talk radio in 1992. He started out as center to right as a Republican, but in 1998, he took a tour of the rural part of the state and visited a homeless shelter and visited a lot of families who were struggling, and it changed his thinking. So in 2005, he started on Sirius Left. And in 2009, he started his television show on MSNBC, The Ed Schultz Show. I always liked Ed Schultz. His show appeared on MSNBC at various times, and it lasted until 2015, until he bumped heads with the president, Phil Griffin, over Bernie Sanders' coverage. He wanted to cover Bernie Sanders' announcement for running for president, and Griffin wanted him to cover something else, which was fairly insignificant. But you know, got to listen to the boss man, and so he didn't, and he was fired. So the man who supported the labor movement was fired. How did I meet him? The Occupy Wall Street movement had taken over Zuccotti Park from September 17, 2011 to November 15, 2011, when Mayor Bloomberg moved out the protesters. He sent in the police. But on October 9, 2011, there was a protest at Foley's Park. And there's all these court buildings in that area. And I bumped into him on the street corner. And I said, "Hey, I love your show, Ed. Keep up the great work." And he said, "Thank you." And then I said, "Well, what do you think of all of this?" And he said, "We'll see." And then he asked me what I did. And I said, "Well, I'm a history teacher." He said, "Hey, my mother was an English teacher." And then the light changed and he said, "Nice to meet you, James." So he was a really nice guy. And then after he was fired at MSNBC, he moved to RT Television and talked about the plight of the working class Americans until 2018 when he died. And unfortunately, you know, he had a history of heart problems. So R.I.P. Ed Schultz. I always liked him. Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins was born in 1958 in California. He's an actor, and he made his debut on St. Elsewhere in 1982. I was in high school. I was a sophomore in high school. And he appeared in the following movies: Top Gun, Bull Durham, Mystic River, Jacob's Ladder, and The Shawshank Redemption, one of my all-time favorite movies. They say 4% of people in prison are innocent. Can you imagine if you were in prison and you were innocent? Ugh. He also appeared in Moonlighting and on Love Boat. He was married to Susan Sarandon from 1988 through 2009. He's a lapsed Catholic. He's also a New York Mets fan and politically liberal. He supported Ralph Nader for president in 2000. He opposed the 2003 invasion of Iraq. And he supported Bernie Sanders for president in 2016. So how did I meet Tim Robbins? So on October 3rd, 2008, President Bush signed the TARP legislation that gave $700 billion to the Wall Street companies that created the 2008 recession through their reckless speculation. And in the country, there was an uproar. I mean, working class people, regular people, taxpayers were livid that we were giving this money to these Wall Street people who pissed it away. So this ended up creating the 99% movement. And on October 5th of 2011, there was a protest in Foley Square. I was on the steps of the New York County Court on 60 Center Street, and I had a sign I was holding. It said, "Who gutted the Glass-Steagall Act?" And that That was supposed to stop speculation on Wall Street, and the person who did that was President Bill Clinton. I'm a Democrat. Um, so, anyway, there were thousands of people. People were chanting, "We are the 99%." People were holding up their signs. And I see this guy riding a bicycle, and it's Tim Robbins. I'm like, wow, that's the guy from Jacob's Ladder. That's the guy from the Shawshank Redemption. And he pulls up next to me. He's looking around. He's got a big smile on his face. And I look at him, and he looks at me, and we just smiled and nodded at each other. And we had a moment. And that was pretty cool because it was like, wow, look at this. The regular people are rising up. And so it was very exciting. I mean, for 2 months, I mean, people were living in Zuccotti Park and they were having protests. It was getting coverage every night. People were talking about the recession, how it happened, how regular people were getting screwed. So, I'm just glad that Tim Robbins' head didn't start spinning around like it did in that movie Jacob's Ladder. If you've ever seen that, that is creepy. So, anyway, that's my Tim Robbins and Ed Schultz story. So, God bless you, all humans and ETs. All my books are on Amazon, and thank you so much for listening.